The federal government has new figures on the number of illegal immigrants who are behind bars in this country. We've long guessed at that number. We can't really know it, but we're getting closer. Ronald Vitello is acting Deputy Commissioner of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and he joins us tonight. Deputy Commissioner, thanks a lot for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So what do we now know about the number of foreign citizens here legally behind bars in the United States?
Well, it's a big number. The Department of Justice and the Secretary of Homeland Security published this report based on an initiative out of the White House, an executive order that talked about immigration enforcement improvements. So this renewed focus on border security and immigration enforcement gets us to documents like this one that fully informs the justice system and what, the number of people that are incarcerated. And I believe the number is like 93% of those that are in custody that are from another country are also in the country illegally. So it underscores the need for border security, technology, infrastructure, more agents, what we're trying to action plan for the president to bring operational control to the border. So this is an example of why that's important, because we wouldn't have a problem as big as the one that's being delivered in this report.
Well, exactly. And it also suggests that people who come here illegally are much more likely to commit other crimes than immigrants who come legally, and I guess that makes sense. Tell us about the volume of fentanyl coming over our borders right now.
So it's a big problem. Don't have the numbers in front of me, but like last year we saw over 110% increase versus the previous year. Those numbers continue to go up. I was in the JFK mail facility with our Customs and Border Protection officers a couple of weeks ago. They have to screen 800,000 packages that are coming into the mail facility. That's just U.S. mail. That doesn't account for the things that we get off of these express consignment like UPS, FedEx, DHL. So there's lots of volume of illicit commerce coming to the United States, but that requires us to screen that stuff and try to keep fentanyl away from the streets of the U.S.
Killing tens of thousands of Americans, you'd think there'd be a bigger outcry. Thank you. Thank you for those numbers and for all that you do. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, recently you've seen an obsession in the press with the notion that it is particularly evil, utterly immoral, to separate illegal immigrant parents from their children. Here's part of the outcry.
Taking children from their parents, from their families, from their mothers must stop, and it is not negotiable.
Invest in children where we don't tear them from the loving arms of their mothers and their fathers.
The fact that those families are being separated at the border, the fact that children are being torn out of the arms of their mothers is on Donald Trump's head and nobody else.
There are a lot of sad stories out there, for sure. But let's put this in perspective. Parents are separated from their children every day in this country. American citizens separated from their children. That happens when they're arrested, whether it's for theft or drug dealing or tax evasion or whatever, and nobody cares. But once again, to the left, illegal immigrants are special, and they have more rights than you do. David Bernstein is the founder of Run for America, and he joins us now. David, look, I think it's, as the father of many children, I think it's crushing when parents are separated from their kids. But I wonder why this is only suddenly news. How many, just for example, children right now, American children, are living without a parent who is behind bars in this country? Do you have any idea?
Well, look, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but we know that it's actually quite sizable, and they're there for all sorts of crimes.
It's 2.4 million.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So the majority of American prisoners have American children from whom they're separated.
Yep.
And that's a sad thing. I haven't heard anybody on the left mention that because they're not illegal aliens. Well, and I just wonder why the focus on the pathos of these stories while the suffering of American citizens of the exact same kind is being completely ignored by you and your fellow liberals. Why?
Well, first of all, I'm not ignoring it. I'm here talking about it with you, and I think it is unfortunate because research shows us that parents who are parents and children, when they're separated, incurs tremendous trauma on children, right? And we have a system in this country to deal with that. I think the reality is for the people who are being separated at the border, a lot of these people are already coming from very traumatic situations, so it makes it a little bit different. But I agree, Tucker, that there should be a broader outcry about all the ways.
So you think most American prison inmates grew up in Greenwich and went to Choate? No. Actually, they grew up in poverty and in circumstances that rival those in Tegucigalpa. So let's be real here. If we really cared about American citizens as much as you care about illegal aliens,
we absolutely should have a better system for how we deal with
I don't think we even have a system.
We don't. You're right. We have the foster care system in this country. If you really want to talk about the crisis for
I'm
families
very aware of it.
and children in this country, the foster care system in this country is riddled with corruption, is crying out for reform. It's one of the many things that we could actually do. We could actually come together on a bipartisan basis, but people are too interested in stoking fear around immigration and issues like this, like you on this show,
really? Because
I guess I see
we could actually do together. I see it a little differently, because here I am reminding you that the crime that you're so upset about is taking place and hurting Americans, but you don't care. So, for example,
I am upset about
you had 60,000 Americans die last year of drug ODs. If you saw
that is
the same
devastating fact, Tucker.
But we don't care about fentanyl coming over the border. What if the same proportion of illegal aliens were dying? What if illegal aliens were dying of fentanyl, not just dealing it, which they are? If they were dying of it, do you think that we would sit back and say, we can't do anything about it, it's a demand problem? I don't think we would, actually.
No, absolutely not. And the reality is, Tucker, that I am you. There are Democrats out there who are responding to what they see, and they don't like the fact that children are separated from their parents. I do not think it is a good thing in this country any day when a child and a parent are separated, no matter what country they come from, no matter how they got here. That shouldn't happen, okay? And we should try and do our best to have a system that doesn't allow that to happen. And whether it's because they're illegal immigrants, whether it's because they're accused of shoplifting, whether it's because they're accused of tax evasion. I think the effort by you and others on the right to try and gin up this energy is exactly the kind of force that makes this such a divisive issue, Tucker. And the reality is that the immigration...
That's hilarious, actually.
Why is it hilarious?
What I'm interested... No, because...
I don't find anything about this
There's a principle at
situation
stake here.
funny.
No, it's hilarious because you and Elizabeth Warren jumping up and down. He's got blood on his hands. It's on his head. This happens every day, and you guys don't care because it's happening to Americans.
I care.
So let's talk solutions.
I'm here to tell you. I've been telling you this whole segment that I care.
I haven't. Yeah, I don't think you've actually been raising much of a hue and cry about this. When tax evaders go to jail and leave their small kids at home, it's like, that's fine. That's the price you pay when you commit a crime. So what is the answer? That if you have a small child at home and you commit a crime, we don't incarcerate you? I mean, is there a simple solution that I'm missing because I'm ginning up fear or evil? I mean, what is the solution exactly?
There's absolutely not a simple solution, Tucker, to this problem.
Then why are you pretending there is? Why are you pretending there is? You and Elizabeth Warren.
Excuse me.
Like
I never said there's a simple solution to this problem because this is certainly not a cut and dry problem. What we could do in this country, is have a different system for how we look at criminal justice, for instance. And the president, who's been eager to pardon people who Kim Kardashian puts in front of him, could look at some of the nonviolent drug offenders who are in jail, who should have their sentences reformed.
But let me just ask you really quickly. It's a sincere question, actually. If someone has a small child at home, should we punish him differently for a crime?
Maybe we should. Maybe we should look at that differently. I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying yes.
I don't know the answer, but I mean,
I don't know the answer
that's
either.
the fruitful conversation.
But this would be a good conversation to have because it needs to apply to everybody we have in this country.
Good, and not just to foreign citizens, but our own citizens.
Absolutely
David, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tucker.
Good to see you.